By the time the second officer asked, "Ma'am, is this your fake restraining order?" Linda Pennington was already collapsed against the hood of a patrol car, sobbing like she'd been personally betrayed by the legal system. Her security team, 3 sweaty guys in identical Maple Ridge HOA security polos, sat, handcuffed in my lawn chairs, dripping barbecue sauce and cheap beer, while half the neighborhood recorded them on their phones. Behind them, the backyard party hadn't even slowed down. Someone cranked the music back up. Kids tore around with water balloons like it was field day. Smoke drifted lazily from the grill into the evening air. Looking completely unbothered by the attempted budget tear coup it just witnessed, I stood there with grill tongs in one hand and a paper plate in the other, staring from Linda to the cops. "So, should I turn the ribs down?" I asked. "Or is this more of a celebratory smoke situation?" One officer snorted. The other flipped a page in Linda's so-called HOA incident binder and said loud enough for the entire cul-de-sac, "Ma'am, you understand you cannot forge judicial documents just because you dislike the smell of smoked meat, right?" The crowd cheered. 3 months earlier, I had moved into Stonewallow Ridge, one of those master plan communities that advertise modern comfort meets small-town charm and delivered same house, different siding. I worked at kept to myself and had exactly 3 hobbies: working from home and soft shorts, tinkering with my grill, and avoiding human interaction whenever possible. I bought the house specifically for the backyard or wide-fenced rectangle, just big enough for a smoker, grill, and a tiny herb garden. My own little kingdom where I could season brisket, answer Slack messages begrudgingly, and pretend the world didn't exist. I'd been there maybe 5 days when I first met Linda Pennington, president of the Stonewallow Ridge HOA and the human equivalent of a next-door complaint thread. She appeared on my porch with a clipboard, a tight smile, and a name tag that read, Linda P., President Community Brand Ambassador. I thought, brand ambassador for what? Beige Linda launched into a speech about community aesthetics and harmonious living expectations. But her attention kept drifting past me toward the backyard where my large, black, admittedly industrial-looking smokers sat like a parked tank. And that, Mr. Hale, she concluded, brings us to our outdoor activity guidelines. I blinked. What now? The HOA has a strict policy regarding odors, smoke, and noise after 5 p.m. on weekdays and 3 p.m. on weekends, Linda chirped. We cannot have intrusive smells. It negatively affects the community brand. It's grilled meat, I said, not tear gas. She smiled the strained smile of someone who had never enjoyed a rib. We'll keep an eye on it, she said, before leaving a 42-page rule packet on my porch like she was serving me court. Documents. Things escalated far faster than I thought possible. First came the friendly notices. Your grill is visible above fence height. Unapproved outdoor cooking equipment. Charcoal is discouraged. Under Section 7B of the Outdoor Comfort Mandate, I ignored all of them. I wasn't technically part of the HOA. My lot was an older parcel grandfathered in long before Stonewallow Ridge sprawled around it. My realtor had been very clear. You are near the HOA, not in it. You do not pay dues. They do not own you. Then the notices became less friendly, per community decision. Large volume grilling constitutes a special event requiring prior approval and an event usage permit. Attached was a form demanding my guest list, menu, music genre, an estimated smell radius. I framed that one in the hallway. When I emailed Linda to remind her politely that my property wasn't under HOA jurisdiction, she replied with a 3-paragraph lecture about soft boundaries and shared olfactory environments. Then came the spying. I'd catch Linda peeking through the knots in my fence, timing how long the grill was running with a stopwatch, holding her phone up like she was documenting war crimes whenever a wisp of smoke floated over her airspace. Neighbors started quietly warning me. She tried to ban citronella candles last year, my next-door neighbor said. Filed it under unauthorized flame decor. She made us repaint our front door because it was aggressively teal, another whispered. So when I sent out invites for the annual Hale family summer, BBQ parents flying in, My brother driving down with his kids? Friends from work. I added a note at the bottom. P.S. If you're allergic to HOA presidents, bring popcorn. This might get entertaining. I was right. 3 days before the barbecue, a new letter appeared in my mailbox. This one printed on faux official paper with a watermark so obviously fake it looked. Like someone's revenge project in Microsoft Word. Notice of restriction due to multiple complaints. All large gatherings at 14 Birkman Court are temporarily suspended. This includes but is not limited to BBQs, cookouts, or smoke-heavy culinary events. Violations may result in police involvement. At the bottom, in wobbly, overly confident cursive, signed, Officer Daniel Clean, Community Liaison. I stared at the signature, then the name. Then, I texted my friend Dan Cleanan, actual officer, also my high school buddy, also the guy who helped me move the smoker last month. Did you get a side gig writing hate mail for my HOA? He responded with a series of question marks. I sent him a photo. He wrote back, Bro, that's so fake. That's not even my handwriting or our letterhead. Also, smoke-heavy culinary events? Who talks like that? 20 minutes later, Dan called. That's forgery, he said. Like actual legal forgery. Cool, I said. So when you arrest her, do I keep grilling? Or do I pause for the Miranda rights? Throw another rack on, Dan said. Also, we're flagging your address. If anyone calls in a complaint that night, we're the ones responding. I grinned. I knew Linda wouldn't be able to resist going big. I just didn't realize how big until the day of the barbecue. The party started at 4 o'clock. Music at a reasonable volume. Kids splashing in the inflatable pool. My dad loudly oversharing his opinions about brisket temperatures at 4:22. For 22 p.m., I spotted Linda at the end of the cul-de-sac, whispering urgently to 3 bulky men in matching polos with senior HOA security embroidered on them, like she'd formed the decorative throw pillow version of a paramilitary unit. At 4:30, the trio marched straight through my open side gate without knocking, sir. The tallest one barked. We're here to shut this down under authority of the HOA. I looked at them, then at my grill. You guys got a warrant? Or just matching shirts? The shortest one puffed up, stepped forward, and slapped a folded paper onto my patio table. Restraint order, he declared, mispronouncing it like restrained tea. You're in violation. We can remove equipment? I picked up the document, skimmed it, and had to choke back a laugh. It was a Frankenstein mashup of legal jargon clearly stitched together from Law and Order reruns. Neat, I said. Couple of problems, though. Held the paper up and raised my voice. Hey, Dad, didn't you do 30 years as a county judge? Every head swiveled. My father, still wearing an apron that said Grill Sergeant, wiped his hands on a towel and walked over. He scanned the paper once. Oh, this is adorable, my dad said. Like a toddler trying to write a subpoena. Thug number 1 reached for my grill cover. I stepped between them, still calm. You put a hand on that smoker, I said? And you're trespassing and tampering with my property? This is all on camera. I pointed to the very obvious security cameras under the eaves. The biggest guy smirked. We already called the cops, man. You're done. Perfect, I said. So did I. The police arrived 12 minutes later, lights on, no sirens, 2 cruisers gliding past the parked cars. Linda strutted behind them like she was leading a parade, hair shellacked, binder clutched to her chest. There, she barked, stabbing a finger toward my yard. That's the illegal event. Multiple violations. We issued a cease and desist. He threatened my security team. The smoke is high, Dan, I called. Officer Dan Clean stepped out of the first cruiser, sunglasses on, expression neutral. His partner mirrored him. Afternoon, sir, Don said loudly, very deliberately. Got your message? Ma'am, you're the reporting party? Yes, Linda snapped, straightening up. I'm the HOA president. We are invoking our authority. He's hosting an unauthorized large event, and we have lawfully restricted his right to. You're what now? Don asked. HO authority, Linda repeated sharply. We've issued formal legal notices. I have them right. She thrust a folder into his hands. Dan opened it, flipping through fake restrictions, the forged notice with his name, the DIY restraining order. His jaw tightened. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "where exactly did you get this letter with my signature?" "Well, I drafted it based on our previous conversations," Linda said quickly. "It was implied." "So," Dan said, "you wrote a letter pretending to be me." "On county letterhead," held it up. Comic Sans, the crowd lost it. Someone snorted. One of the thugs shifted in the lawn chair like it was suddenly too warm. Dan turned to me. "You have cameras on all this?" "Yep. Audio too. Great. We're going to need that." Linda's fake confidence wobbled like a loose table leg. "This is getting off track," she snapped. "Arrest him for the illegal gathering." My security team attempted to de-escalate, and he threatened them. "Ma'am," Dan's partner cut in. "Your security team entered his yard without permission, tried to disconnect his power, and one of them just admitted on my body cam that they were going to toss the speakers into the pool." Thug number 2, the one who had indeed said that, stared at the ground. "That's trespassing and attempted property damage," the partner continued. "At minimum, you're empowered by the HOA." Linda sputtered. "The HOA," Don said evenly, "is not a branch of law enforcement." He lifted the forged documents so the nearest neighbor could see. "But pretending to be a branch of law enforcement? That is a problem." The humiliation unfolded in stages, like a slow-motion car wash of consequences. Don radioed something short and quiet. Minutes later, a third cruiser pulled up, this one carrying a supervisor who looked like he'd bitten into a lemon. The supervisor took one look at Dan's forged letter, pinched the bridge of his nose, and said the magic words, "All right. We're treating this as criminal impersonation and forgery." In full view of half the neighborhood and a grill full of sizzling ribs, Dan stepped back, squared his shoulders, and said, "Ma'am, place your hands on the hood of the vehicle." Linda's jaw hit the floor. You can't be serious," she sputtered. "I am the president of this community." "And I," Dan said, louder, "am very seriously telling you that you cannot fabricate law enforcement documents because you don't like a man cooking brisket." He gently but firmly turned her toward the car. The metallic click of handcuffs sounded like a halftime show. People clapped. A kid whispered, "Is Miss Linda going to jail?" Another asked, "Does jail have an HOA?" The 3 security guys were necks patted down, cuffed, and parked on my lawn chairs like contestants in a pageant called Mr. Bad Decisions 2025. I sat on a half-eaten plate of potato salad and didn't even fight it. The supervisor faced me. All business. "Mr. Hale, you're free to continue your lawful gathering," he said. "If anyone from the HOA harasses you tonight, call us directly." And with the timing of a stand-up comic, he added, "And maybe save us a plate." The backyard erupted. My mom appeared with a tray of ribs, like she'd been waiting for that cue all evening. Linda made one last attempt. Mascara streaked, hair collapsing. "You're all making a huge mistake," she cried. "This is a quiet, upscale community. We have rules. We have standards. You can't just." Dan angled his body cam. "Ma'am, the only standard that applies here is the law, and you broke it. A lot." The videos spread through neighborhood group chats before the cruisers even left. Linda getting cuffed with my smoker gleaming behind her. The thugs being marched off past the bounce house. Dan politely refusing a beer on camera while saying, "Enjoy your evening, folks." By Monday, half of Stonewallow Ridge had seen it. By Wednesday, so had the county prosecutor. The aftermath was a slow, clinical dismantling of Linda's petty empire. Legally, she was charged with forgery, impersonating a public official, and filing a false report. She was slapped with an actual restraining order. She couldn't contact me directly or indirectly, meaning she couldn't even type my name in HOA emails. The security guys were fined for trespassing and vandalism, sentenced to community service. For 6 months, they scrubbed park bathrooms wearing bright orange vests that said "volunteer" in letters way too cheerful. The HOA board, terrified of being dragged into a lawsuit, sacrificed Linda instantly. At an emergency meeting packed with more people than they'd ever seen, they kicked her out as president, banned her from any board position for 10 years, and hired a real lawyer. He read the bylaws and delivered the sentence that shattered Linda's soul. This lot, he pointed to my parcel, glowing red on the map, is not, has never been, and cannot legally be part of the HOA. You have zero jurisdiction over him. A motion passed to send me a written apology. Linda refused to sign. Didn't matter, the vice president did. Linda eventually took a plea deal, probation, fines, mandatory civics classes, and a permanent note on her record that would pop up every time she tried to volunteer for anything remotely official. Her face went pale as the judge read the terms. Her hands trembled as she signed. She scanned the room like someone would step forward and declare it all a misunderstanding that her HOA presidency meant something here, but the gavel fell. And Linda Pennington walked out of the courthouse, a convicted forger, banned from her own neighborhood board, with a criminal record that would follow her for the rest of her